zone, 'cause I need more of the truth right now. It's time that you made your mind up, 'cause lately all it ever does is change. Feels like we're only talking, going round and around, back around. I will fight like no other every day. I won't stop like the others. I will stay. 'Cause now is the right time, and I'm feeling alright. I'm playing your game like I know I can win right now. It's a final. You got me up tonight, 'cause loving you is like I'm walking a tightrope so high. I won't be turning around, no, I won't be turning around. It's the right time. You feeling alright? I'm playing your game like I will win tonight. Don't forget it, don't forget it, don't forget it. We'll turn this around. Don't forget it, don't forget it, don't forget it. We'll turn this around.
Hey guys, Sean here. Welcome to the F1 word and to some race reaction from the Imola Grand Prix, the Emilia Romagna, whatever we're calling it, Grand Prix this weekend. Yes, F1 back in Imola. How did you like that one? It was a race of, I'd say, two halves, but I'd say 2/3 and a bit. It was a crazy last few laps, wasn't it? It sort of very much, let's say, settled down if we're being generous. I don't think anybody was expecting an absolute thriller from Imola. I think we were hoping that maybe it would go down the same route as, say, Mugello, for example, maybe a bit more chaos, but I don't think that was too bad. It was better than I was expecting, and as Martin Brundle said actually in commentary, better than he was expecting 10 laps in, so not awful. Well, yeah, maybe it is kind of what I was expecting from Imola, but look, we're probably never going to go back there again, unless, God forbid, something else happens in this crazy world. But it was nice to see Imola back. Nice to be able to remember the likes of Ayrton Senna, of course, and Roland Ratzenberger. But yeah, it was just one of those races. Just good to see the track back on the calendar, to be honest. Hope you all enjoyed it. We did get a bit of a surprise result, thanks to a bit of chaos towards the end, which we'll go over in just a second. But very good afternoon. Well, if you're in the UK, it's good afternoon. I don't know where it is for anybody else. But good afternoon to, who are we going to give shout-outs to today? Ian Francis. Hi, Ian. I'm not sure if we've got your problem sorted. Hopefully we did. Mod should be on that today. Good afternoon to Tracy, to Clansome, to Jesse, to The Legend Gaming. Is it Rinse? Joachim, Tracy, hello Annette. I bet you're a little bit pleased, Annette, today. I can imagine doing a little bit of a dance. Hey to Max, to David, to Matthew, to the F1 News Squad again. Lots of names from yesterday, so good to see you. Hey to Samar, to Youssef, Adam, and to Safe Plum 3626. Is it 3626? It is now. If it isn't, that's all going far too quickly. Let's have a look at this race result then, and crack on with this reaction. Anybody surprised by Mercedes 1-2? Is there any need to go over this too much? Lewis Hamilton taking victory number 93. Valtteri Bottas coming home 5.7 seconds behind his teammate. And that is the Constructors' Championship wrapped up for Mercedes. 7 in a row. Massive congratulations to Mercedes for that one. And massive congratulations as well for Daniel Ricciardo, his second podium of the season for Renault. Fantastic for him in third place. Daniel Kvyat, stunning last few laps. Fourth place for him. Charles Leclerc once again wringing the neck of that Ferrari in fifth place. Sergio Perez, on the face of it, if you've not seen the race, pretty decent Grand Prix. Sixth place. Probably extremely disappointed he's not on that podium. More on that later. Carlos Sainz, seventh place, and eighth place for Lando Norris. And then it's double points for Alfa Romeo. Did not expect that coming into this weekend. 2 for Kimi Raikkonen in ninth place, and 1 for Antonio Giovinazzi in 10th. Nicholas Latifi, 11th for Williams, right on the fringes of points. 12th place for Sebastian Vettel. He could have had a much better result had Ferrari worked on pit stops at some point, or at least pit stops on his car. Let's not get into that. Lance Stroll in 13th place. 14th for Romain Grosjean. 15th and last for Alexander Albon, thanks to a late spin. I'm sure we'll talk about him in this stream a lot. George Russell, oh, what a plonker. DNF was looking so good for points and then binned it under the safety car under no real pressure at all, apart from obviously trying to score points for Williams. Not a finish for him. DNF as well for Verstappen. Massive puncture. Quite a nasty little spin there, but he was okay. Race over, obviously. Kevin Magnussen got a bit of a headache because of some upshift problems, or just hard upshifts. He was determined to race on, but Haas decided to retire him. Esteban Ocon, he had was it a gearbox issue or a drivetrain issue? I'll double check that in a bit, but he was out. About halfway through the race, that triggered a virtual safety car, and Pierre Gasly was out pretty quickly. He had issues on the grid with his car, with his Alpha Tauri, and then ended up retiring. A coolant issue, I believe. So game over for Gasly, which is such a shame because he's had such a good weekend. So yeah, and such a good season. It's not just a good weekend for Pierre Gasly, a fantastic season all round. But let's say a very good afternoon to my guest today. It feels like years, but it's probably only been months. Very good afternoon to Jonty. Hello, Jonty, mate. I've missed you.
Good afternoon, Sean, and everyone. I've missed you too. Does it sound all right? First time we've used this on here. Yeah,
I just need to turn you up, but I'll play with levels while we're live. But I just need to turn you up a little bit. But we'll do that as we go. But yeah, it's good to have you back on. But what kind of feels apt, given the video we did a few years ago, that you're back for the Imola stream. But did you enjoy that one, mate? Or are you just like me, just happy to see it back on the calendar in some form, even if the racing was a bit meh at times?
It wasn't too bad. It could have been a lot worse. But I think I'm the same as you, just happy to see a real track back and not a Tilkedrome. That's been the best thing about this year.
It's been like the only real positive in some ways, isn't it, for 2020, is just having these classic tracks back and an opportunity. I know that it's not like a major anniversary for 1994, but it's our first time back since 2006. So we've obviously passed the 20th anniversary and all sorts, haven't we? So it's nice to come back and be able to just take a moment to remember those that we lost in 94. But I think race-wise, not too bad. I'm not going to sit here and, I love Imola. I keep banging on about it, but I'm not going to sit here and try and make out that was some kind of phenomenal Grand Prix that I can't wait to watch back. But it's certainly... It got off to an interesting start. Not much contact on that first lap. I don't know about you, mate, but I was expecting a hell of a lot of contact into turn one, and we didn't actually get anything at all, really. I mean, there was Magnussen and Vettel, wasn't there, at Tosa, and I think Stroll went into the back of somebody, but that was about it.
I was expecting a lot more coming into turn one, because back in '95 when it was put in, it was a chicane. It really isn't a chicane for him now. It's little more than it's a bit similar to turn one going in at Canada, but it's very clean. Why are they so clean?
It's like they know what they're doing. What's going on out there? We don't want that. No, I suppose modern day F1, I don't want to get too much into it, modern day F1, once upon a time, if there was a crash at the first corner, then there'd be a red flag and you can get in the spare car, can't you? You can't do that nowadays. So if you cock it up in turn one, it's all over for the rest of your Sunday. I suppose that maybe plays in a minds. Plus, the cars are bigger, it's harder to get alongside, so we see a bit less side-by-side stuff, I suppose, into turn one. But I actually expected absolute chaos down there, I did, and I'm very surprised. But surprisingly clean from everybody. We've got to start with, I suppose, the big news, really. Mercedes taking a 7th consecutive World Championship. Did you think for a second that Red Bull might be able to take it to Turkey? No.
No. They just needed one car to finish 4th, and that would be it. As far as I'm sure I read that earlier.
Yeah, it was, yeah. Red Bull needed to outscore them by 33 points, and they've only scored more than 33 points once this season.
Exactly. And that also does nail on the drivers as well, I think.
Yeah.
We don't know who yet, by the case of a couple of points. We know it's going to be Lewis. There's no way Lewis is going to DNF every remaining race and Bottas is going to win them all. But
you never know. You never know what's going to happen. Turkey next, and then we've got the pick and mix. It is Abu Dhabi. Anything can happen there. And Lewis is going to be a 7-time world champion, isn't he? I think we've known that one for a while. But a lot of stuff on. I was keeping an eye on social media. I'm not saying much over there this week, but I've kept an eye on it, and a lot of people calling Lewis Hamilton very lucky to be taking this win because of the timing of the virtual safety car, which I can sort of understand because the virtual safety car was perfect. They said in commentary it's like Mercedes pressed the button for when they wanted it themselves. It was that perfect for him. But he'd already extended to over 38 seconds to Bottas, and the team had already told Bottas that he was 1 second unsafe to Lewis. So actually, even without the virtual safety car, assuming the pit stop went okay, he would have still won that race. So I don't think it's fair to say it was all down to luck. He extended that stint. He kept pushing. Yes, Bottas had a bit of floor damage, which I suppose you could class as a bit of luck, but he kept pushing, did Lewis. He extended his stint, and the virtual safety car was just a cherry on top of that cake, really, wasn't it, for him?
yeah, I mean, a lot of people say you make your own luck, and that definitely fits with today, I think. Like you said, Lewis has already pulled out enough of a gap to be able to pit and still come out ahead of Bottas. Only just, but he had done it. You know, obviously there's always the risk that a stop might be slow, and when he did finally come in, the stop was pretty slow. It was 3.4, I think, which was not in the realms of their usual standards. But that could just be being safe because they'd got the time to spare with the VSC happening. But yeah, yes, he was lucky, but name me one world champion that has never been lucky.
Michael Schumacher, all skill.
Okay, name me one that was more than just all skill and dirty tactics.
Oh, he's back, ladies and gentlemen. He's back, straight in with the Schumacher ribbing. No, I totally agree, and I think maybe there was an air of caution at their stop because they had the cushion. Because if obviously the 3.4 second stop, he wouldn't have jumped Bottas, I don't think, without the virtual safety car. But I tell you something, talking of safety cars, that safety car right towards the end, he only just came out ahead of Bottas, despite actually having about 30 odd seconds, didn't he? Because Bottas just absolutely floored it between the two safety car lines, and Hamilton had to wait for the safety car to get out of his way so he could pit. So he only just got out in front of him. That was a lot closer than I expected. That'd be comfortable.
Yeah, it was really close, and like you said, Brundle pointed out on the commentary, as soon as Bottas got to that safety car line, he was absolutely pinned on that throttle, which was, I think in some ways that is a bit of a loophole they do need to look at, because, you know, those deltas are put in place for a reason. To have one bit of the track where they can go absolutely flat out is a bit dodgy.
Yeah, under safety car, yeah. I think I suppose I was going to say under virtual safety car, maybe not, because it's at a specific point of a track, isn't it? If the incidents happen at a specific point, maybe they can say, oh, well, you can floor it between those two lines. But I think it needs to be across the board, doesn't it? But I mean, he kept the lead, so I don't think it really mattered. But I think Bottas will be a little bit miffed. I've not seen anything from him post-race. I assume he's full of congratulations for the team. They tend to be when they don't want to say too much about their race. But I can understand why he'd be disappointed or frustrated, because last weekend he wanted to go on a different strategy to Hamilton and the team wouldn't let him. He wanted a different tyre, didn't he? So he'll probably be looking at that, and some people might as well say, well, hang on a minute, if Lewis is allowed to extend, why can't Bottas have the same tyre? But I did find it interesting that they went to the hard tyre at Hamilton's stop. I suppose maybe, as we saw with Verstappen, the tyre exploding, it was the safest thing to do. But I think it was pretty clear. Maybe they've said to Lewis on the radio, we've not heard something like you can extend, but you are not going on a different tyre. You will get the same tyre as Bottas. But I think Valtteri will be frustrated, but he's... Do you feel this season, and I'm going to say it and upset people in comments in chat, but do you feel this season, Jonty, like it's felt more as if Bottas is the clear number 2 at Mercedes than in previous seasons?
I wouldn't have said that until today, to be quite honest. Today, with that difference, with Lewis being able to extend, and change his strategy, that felt like very much underhanded team orders. It's like, we're not going to just come out and say, you stay where you are, because that makes people angry. So we'll just say, oh, the race has evolved and it's going to be better if we extend this guy now because the other one's already pitted and things might happen. Oh, look, Ocon's caused a virtual safety car. You see, this is what we were trying to guard against. Things like that. I think this was a ploy for team orders. They just tried to keep it in a very nice way without making too many people angry.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I don't think if Bottas had led away from pole and Hamilton had been second and Verstappen hadn't got the jump, I don't think they'd have allowed Hamilton to extend in second. But I think with Verstappen being between them, like you're saying now, it was an opportunity, wasn't it, to get the 1-2, and if it meant extending to get Hamilton out front as well. I'm not saying there are team orders. I'm just wondering, this year it feels like maybe it's just felt a little bit more like Bottas has been the number 2, not like a Barrichello number 2, but sort of almost a second thought at times. But at the same time, he's not on the level of Lewis Hamilton, is he? So you could... Identical cars and all of that business, Hamilton more often than not is still going to come out on top. So maybe the team trust Hamilton's decisions more. Bottas saying last week, I want the soft tyre, maybe Hamilton turning around and saying I want to extend. They've sort of gone, well, yeah, I mean, he's probably right on that. Bottas was wrong on the softs. I don't know. I'm not saying it's 100%. It just feels a little bit different this year.
Yeah, and also been reminded in the chat, you've got the fact that Bottas was carrying around a piece of Vettel's car. And we don't really know how badly that was affecting his aero, which may have played into the decision. They may have been thinking over the course of the whole race, there's no way Bottas is going to keep the pace to fight with Lewis safely, so just don't bother.
Or even with that damage, if Bottas keeps the lead, he's going to hold Hamilton up, and that brings Verstappen into play. That sort of thing as well. So, yeah. It just somebody said I'm talking rubbish, but I understand when you've got some people in chat, you're not allowed to speculate. But it was just a thought I was thinking. It's a reaction. I'll say what I want to. But I think that's probably more it. Actually thinking about the damage, that's a very good point, Jonty. Just and not wanting to bring Verstappen into play because Bottas might. Because we saw Bottas couldn't keep Verstappen behind, could he? And seemed to lose some braking performance as well because he made that mistake which allowed Verstappen to get close and go through. One thing on the Bottas mistake I do want to say, Christian Horner was saying afterwards that Max Verstappen apparently felt that Bottas might have brake checked him a little bit after he'd been off track, but Christian Horner said that's all fair in racing, so nothing to worry about there. But I did wonder after sort of, because Bottas goes wide, doesn't he, through the first Rivazza, and I just wondered when Verstappen kind of went to duck underneath him and then Bottas came across, I thought that was the opportunity gone for Verstappen because of obviously Honda's power deficit compared to Mercedes this weekend. I was a little bit concerned for Verstappen that he wasn't going to get that move done, but Bottas was definitely holding him up, so from a team perspective it makes total sense. But I think if Hamilton doesn't extend, Verstappen, assuming he doesn't get a puncture, wins the race, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've seen how difficult it is to overtake around here. Just look at the last restart with was it Perez and Leclerc.
Yeah.
Perez on those super shiny brand new tyres and just couldn't get close enough to get it done, and that's with a better engine and the DR. Yeah, he did have a couple of laps of DRS, so.
Yeah.
So when you got a slow car like Bottas, even when it's Lewis, they would have had to order him to move out of the way, or like you say, Max would have come into play. And that debris in his floor wasn't small.
No, it wasn't, was it?
It was, apart from a little chunk missing in the corner, it was an entire front wing end plate.
Sebastian Vettel's front wing end plate from the incident with Magnussen. I'd noticed his pit stop, he'd lost a bit of that. We'll talk about Vettel in a bit, but I thought when they were talking about debris initially, I suspected he might have picked up that bit of Racing Point on the outside that had been left there for a while, but it turns out it was Sebastian Vettel's from turn 2. We found out a little bit later in the race, but didn't matter in the end, I guess, from a Mercedes point of view. 1-2. I don't think they legitimately really care who's first and who's second, as long as they get the 1-2. That was what they went for today. It's just interesting to put that idea out there and converse about it, debate it, and just chat about it. But I've got Max Verstappen. I thought he had a really good race today. And I think he could have won today if Hamilton hadn't have extended and strategies and safety cars and all that hadn't have gone on. But obviously he caused that second or that first full safety car with a massive, looks like a puncture, massive tyre blowout. Was it right rear? Sent him into the gravel trap at, I think, Villeneuve. So nasty little moment there, and a shame because he'd driven really well to that point, and like I say, was second place. And that fight for second in the Drivers' Championship, which is about all we've got in the top 3 now, was looking like it might be going on to Turkey and Bahrain and Abu Dhabi, because I quite fancied Max for second in the championship a few races ago.
Yeah, but that's still on, I think. It's only 35 points between them. But that tyre blow up, it's always scary when a tyre blows up. But I'll admit, at that point in the track, I was thinking, no, let's not do this. I know I'm overly nervous about stuff like that, but it was that could have been a massive incident. All it would have needed would be for one tyre or the floor to dig in, and then he starts gambolling, and the gravel trap doesn't do anything anymore.
Yeah, I agree. Sorry, I was just dealing with something in chat. I was listening to you, but yeah, we'll talk about Max. Actually, no, should we talk about Red Bull now, or should we talk about Ricciardo now? What do you want to do? Do you want positives or negatives first, Jonty?
Let's get the negatives out of the way so we can end on the positives.
That sounds like a good idea. I reckon so. So yeah, frustrating for Verstappen. He's had a good weekend. Puncture for him. That's why he's not. I think he would have been second today. I don't think he was ever catching Lewis Hamilton. There's a couple of laps where he took a few tenths out of him and thought, here we go. And then Hamilton was like, boom. I was like, And didn't Hamilton do a 1:15 something on the final? He did 1:15.4, fastest lap on the final lap. So Verstappen was never catching him. But all attention after Verstappen's retirement turned to Alex Albon, who was, I believe, 5th at the time. He feels he could have got a podium, got caught up on those cold, hard tyres, ended up in a spin. He thought he had contact in his interview in the pen afterwards, saying he thought he'd had contact. Ted Kravitz said, you didn't. Alex Albon said, I was told that I did. I've seen the onboards. There was no contact. That was a genuine mistake, whether it's cold tyres or not. I messaged you pretty much immediately, didn't I, Jonty? And I just with pretty much 2 words where I just said, bye, Albon. I think that was it.
No, you followed that with Formula E's fun.
Oh, I did, yeah. Formula E's fun. That was it. But yeah, I think if he's hitting that situation, you could probably cut him a bit more slack. And yes, it's cold tyres. Yes, a loss of downforce behind another car, but it's still 100% his mistake.
Yeah, absolutely. And there wasn't any contact, only just because Carlos Sainz apparently is a Jedi.
Yeah.
I mean, he had zero. I mean, we talk about various incidents where someone has very little time to react. Sainz had none at all. It was amazing stuff. But Albon, it just seems to be mistake after mistake, and I want to cut him a lot of slack because we know the environment at Red Bull isn't good. You can't have it happen 2 drivers in a row where one driver, from what the performance we've seen this year, quite clearly is brilliant. No one can deny Gasly has been an excellent driver. So there's definitely something to do with the team, but you also have to make the most of what you've got, and he has got the second fastest car on the grid. and it's silly mistakes that keeps happening for him. Almost, I hate to use the word because it's disrespectful to them, but it looks like amateur stuff. And Red Bull won't do that. I was talking with someone on Twitter saying that for us and for him, it would have been better if they dropped him a few weeks ago, 2 or 3 races ago, so that we would all be saying this is so unfair. They should have given him a chance or given him to the end of the season, so he would have left with his dignity. But now it just makes it worse and worse and worse.
Yeah, we know it's the car, don't we? You're right there. There's no way it's 2 drivers in a row that have struggled in very similar ways. We know it's the car. It's fairly toxic at Red Bull as well at times, especially if you're not performing. So that's probably going to be having an impact. Because he's struggling, he's got to push harder the next race. Some mistakes creep in. That's not helping him. The thing is as well today, and I agree with you, make the most of what you've got underneath you, and he's not been doing that, because even today, he wasn't exactly stunning. He wasn't making his way through the field, but up until his spin, I sort of thought, well, maybe we can cut him a little bit of slack, because you can't really overtake around Imola. So he was stuck in that train, sort of a second and a half behind the car in front. He had a car behind him, a second and a half behind. So I thought maybe we can cut him a bit of slack, but then he made that mistake, and I can't see how he's going to be able to do enough between now and the end of the season, or December, or the end of Turkey, whatever the time limit is. It changes. I was saying this yesterday, whatever you read, Christian Horner saying one thing, Marco saying the other. So I can't see him turning that around. And somebody just said in chat, he scored 1 point since his podium at Mugello. That is not good enough. And today, by being so far down, he allowed Mercedes to run that strategy and get ahead of Verstappen. If Albon is 4th, they can pull the trigger and force Mercedes, and that could have worked to Verstappen's advantage. So I can't see him at Red Bull next. He'll see the season out. I don't see they're going to change anything. I don't see him at Red Bull next season. And to be honest, it all seems to be saying, provided he gets his super license points, that Yuki Tsunoda will be in that AlphaTauri next year. And Marco saying this week, in fact, he said today when asked about Daniel Kvyat, did that performance from Kvyat help him to keep his seat, or does it help him to keep his seat? And Marco laughed and said no. So Kvyat's gone. We know that. He's already said that a very young driver will be in that second AlphaTauri next year. I would say that Albon's still fairly young, so maybe he's in the frame. But it looks like Tsunoda is going to be in that car next year, and Albon probably nowhere. And I feel for him, because I think that Red Bull is a bit of a poison chalice. And I think if you put a Perez in there, I think Perez would do a better job than Gasly did, and a better job than Albon did. But if anybody thinks Perez is going to hop in that car and start beating Verstappen, you're sadly mistaken.
Yeah, and I've just been sat thinking about it while you're talking, and it ends up being a negative feedback loop across many areas, because Albon's got more pressure on him to try and do well, to save his seat. So, like you said, more mistakes will creep in. But then you've also got the thing of he's never been in that position to allow Red Bull strategic flexibility. He's never up there to stop Mercedes from pulling an early stop or trying to get track position that way. So Red Bull get more annoyed with him, which puts more pressure on him, and it just snowballs like crazy. That's why he needs to get away from there. I think he does deserve an F1 seat, but there isn't going to be one. Like you say, Tsunoda's pretty much nailed on for AlphaTauri, and Red Bull could be anyone. I do think they need to go outside of their own stable. And I did have it suggested to Twitter on me earlier. Maybe Cyril goes up to Christian and say, you give Fernando the last 4 races to get back up to speed, and we'll give you engines.
Maybe. Hey. Oh, look at that, doing deals.
The lane suggested that. I mean, you wouldn't put it past Cyril, would you?
No, but I wouldn't expect Verstappen to go, oh yeah, I fancy that. He's probably going to go, nah, you're all right. Although I think Verstappen, actually, to be fair, I think he's a bit like Hamilton. He'd race anybody. So maybe he'd quite fancy that for the last few races. Weirdly, I'm not sure Christian Horner would fancy that or whatever for the last few races. Might get a bit tetchy at times, but yeah, I think I kind of agree. I think Albon, when you consider How can I word this? I'll say some, because it doesn't single anybody out. But when you consider some of the drivers that might find themselves on the grid next year, I'd take Albon over at least one of those. I'm not going to say who. I think you can work it out. But with no disrespect to Yuki Tsunoda, I'd quite like Gasly and Albon alongside each other at AlphaTauri. I think that could be team redemption. I quite like that. Give him a chance. Send him down there and say, look at what Gasly's done. You go there, see what you can do. Do the usual. Maybe one day you'll get back in a Red Bull. That lie. And then maybe you can, because Gasly's been linked to a seat at Renault next year. At the end of next year, there's talk of him maybe getting a seat somewhere else. So teams are looking at him because of this year. So if Albon can get in that AlphaTauri next year and do the same, maybe he'll be able to reinvigorate his Formula One career. But I don't see it happening. So I think that's probably it. But it was his mistake today that is possibly going to be the final straw.
Yeah, and like I say, it's not the first time it's purely his mistake. Was it last race or the race before where he took the front end of someone's car off?
It was Nürburgring, wasn't it?
Yeah, Nürburgring. Because he just wasn't aware of how long his car is. Those are the kind of silly little things that make teams go, oh, come on, get it together. And that's where the anger comes in from teams.
Marco won't stand for it. That's it, isn't it? He's not going to accept that. So, yeah, I mean, I get the cold tyres argument. I get the fact he's lost downforce, he's just been overtaken. But ultimately, there comes a point, I said this last week, there comes a point where we just have to stop with the excuses and say maybe the pressure's too much for him and he's not good enough to be in that car at the moment. He was rushed in. He was rushed in to Formula One because Gasly was rushed into that Red Bull, and then Gasly didn't perform, so Albon was rushed into the Red Bull, and then they're expected to deliver straight away. So I feel for both of them, both drivers in that respect, but it's a performance business, cliche alert. it's about results in Formula One, isn't it? It's a results-based business, so if you're not performing and you're not getting the results, see you later. It has to be, but we'll move on from that. Let's do a positive. Daniel Ruddy Ricciardo, where's Annette? I bet she's in chat. I bet she's drunk. I bet she's absolutely thrilled with that one. Stunning. Once again to see him up there. Looked in a little bit because Racing Point apparently don't do strategy properly. But he put himself in that position, didn't he? He kept himself ahead of the likes of Kvyat and Leclerc. His strategy was solid. He had good pace. What was his final lap? Well, I'll say good pace. It was quite a bit off the pace actually towards the end. Fought hard to fend off Daniel Kvyat towards the end. I just love seeing Daniel Ricciardo in that Renault up on the podium. It's so good.
Oh yeah, it's great. He's always feel good driver to get up there. Sometimes, honestly, the podium can feel a little bit too businesslike, and it's never that way with Danny Rick up there, ever. And yeah, again, same as Lewis, he got a bit lucky because Racing Point just said, "Nah, we don't want a podium today. Screw it." Which everyone's been struggling to overtake all day. It's all right. You'll have the pace to overtake. No, we won't. No one will. Just stay where you are. Which ties into Russell in a weird way, but we'll come to that later.
Yeah, I think you'd need a helicopter to have the pace to overtake at Imola, wouldn't you? And I think you'd still struggle.
Yeah. Exactly. Or I must say, during practice, I loved the fact that we had the helicopter actually do a lap.
Yes.
That was awesome. Yeah, here's your circuit guide. The helicopter does a lap. It was fantastic stuff. Can we have that everywhere, please?
I think he did it for Portugal,
maybe
didn't
not.
he?
Yeah, maybe not the street circuits.
No. Here's turn one. Oops, skyscraper. Damn it. That's not something to joke about, of course. But yeah, I enjoy stuff like that. But I'm just chuffed to see Daniel Ricciardo because that's put him right up there in the championship. Not third place at all, fourth place, I think. And actually, I'm just going to double check. It's moved Renault up as well. It has been on screen, but I'm too daft and didn't think to actually leave it open so I could see what was going on. But I think in the drivers, that's put Daniel Ricciardo 10 points clear of Leclerc. I don't know how he's fifth, but anyway, 10 points clear of Leclerc in the drivers' championship. So actually, Daniel Ricciardo could end up top four in that Renault this season. So what an achievement from him. Just, yeah, again, lucky, and a bit like Lewis Hamilton and Mercedes. Lucky in the sense that others messed up their strategy, but not lucky in the sense that Renault got it right. They looked at it and went, well, yeah, okay, other drivers are going to have the quicker tyre on, but we will have track position. And at Monaco, you would say that track position is king. You would always make sure you had track position over a fresh set of tyres, and maybe that's what teams like Racing Point should have done for Imola, and they didn't. So yes, it was their mistake, but also Renault didn't make that mistake, if you see where I'm coming from with that. So a great strategy call from the team, and apparently Cyril People is not getting 2 tattoos.
I know, that's a bit of a cop-out, if you ask me. They should definitely have got another tattoo.
Yeah.
But no, yeah, Renault called it right. Like you say, Monaco, you'd say track position is everything, but there are other tracks when you'd say that. You certainly would at Hungary. You certainly will here. I'm sure there's a few other tradition, purpose-built race circuits where you would still say that. You certainly wouldn't do that at Monza. But here, yeah, definitely. Abu Dhabi?
I mean, yeah. Abu Dhabi, 100%. But actually, just on overtaking and close racing to me is as important, if not more important than overtaking, because if we have close racing, overtaking is more likely to follow. But funnily enough, we saw more on-track overtakes today than we saw the last time we were here in 2006, and everyone bangs on about how much better F1 was in the old days. It was so much better when we had the cars from the noughties. It was so much better in the 2000s, and actually we had was it one after the first lap, I think, in 2006, Crofty said in commentary, and we definitely had more than one today. So actually, turns out, for Imola, 2020 cars are better suited to it than 2006. That might be a reach.
Yeah, it's quite confusing for 2006, that stat, to be honest, because obviously we started refueling at that point. And refueling with various different strategies, massive different weights, fuel levels in the cars. You usually get loads of overtaking, even if it is artificial because of that. There was still loads all the time, so to get only one was weird.
Yeah. I was surprised when Crofty said it outside of that first lap. Apart from obviously in pit stops, it was one on track overtake. We got more of that today. So, yeah, I think Danny Rick will be very, very pleased with it. We'll talk about Kvyat and Leclerc in a minute, because I kind of feel like this ties in quite nicely to the podium. Is Sergio Perez and the decision by Racing Point to pit him, and that's a confusing decision in a couple of ways. First of all, it was a nailed on podium if he doesn't pit. Secondly, he pitted after everybody else, so his tyres would have been in a much better state than perhaps some of those around him. So I could understand maybe if Racing Point said, look, we saw what happened to Verstappen, we were concerned about a puncture, but his tyres were fresher. So why take that risk? And also, if you are a midfield team and the opportunity for a podium crops up, you've got to just take that chance. You've got to leave your driver out, because you might not get another chance again between now and whenever. So I was really surprised by the team's decision. And Perez said it afterwards, and I'll completely agree with him. It's very easy for us to sit here now and say that, but at the time, Racing Point maybe were concerned about punctures, but also maybe expected Ricciardo to pit. I don't know, but if I'm in that position as a team boss of Racing Point, who have had one podium this year, and you could argue probably with the car they've had the sort of first half of the year should have had more, you've got to leave him out and give him that chance for the podium, even if it is a little bit of a risk and it's going to be tense towards the end. And especially Perez, who can manage tyres. So it's just an odd call for me.
That's literally the point I was just going to say. On top of the track position, the newer than other people have been tyres, certainly newer than Max, so the worry of exploding surely wouldn't have been a thing. Perez making tyres go long. That's what he took. That is his thing. If you're going to put trust in any driver to make old tyres go a bit longer, it's going to be him. It really is a very, very confusing call. The only possible thing I can think of is that maybe he might have run over a little piece of carbon fibre from Max, a little piece of debris from Max's tyre going, and it gave a slow puncture somewhere. I literally can't think of any other possible reason.
It just doesn't make sense, does it? Like you say, unless it is a piece of debris or something. I've not had as soon as I get the press release through from Racing Point with all their quotes, I shall give it a read and we'll see what they say. But maybe just it looks like a call that they shouldn't have made, that they did make, and probably now are kicking themselves, because that's also cost them in the constructors. You can see on screen now, dropping them down to 5th place, equal on points. with McLaren, and it puts Renault up into third. So that could be quite costly financially at the end of the year, letting Ricciardo get that podium, if you like, and just the stop seems off. But I thought Perez had a really good race up to that point. He'd raced well, kept himself out of any real trouble. I suppose it's a Sunday race reaction cliche, just kind of did what you expect Perez to do. And I feel like he deserved that podium, but that was taken away by the team a little bit. So I think Perez had, considering he missed 2 races to COVID, I think he's had a mega season, to be honest. And I can't believe we're talking about him not potentially being on the grid next year.
When doesn't he have a mega season?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, no matter what the car is, he always seems to do well, apart from when he had one of the best cars on the grid in the McLaren, which is really confusing. That's like probably the worst. That's probably the worst season of his whole career, which is really, really strange.
Maybe he doesn't want the Red Bull seat. Maybe he's quite happy at his race. He can't stay at Racing Point. Well, where else is there? Russell and Latifi apparently tied down now. That's been confirmed. Haas look as though they're Schumacher and Mazepin. That only leaves Red Bull and AlphaTauri, and I can't see AlphaTauri putting Perez in there, to be honest. So, yeah, I think another mega season and the potential that he won't be on the grid next year. But we've said this a few times, haven't we, Jonty, about drivers?
Well, yeah, that's true.
I think many of Perez's calibre, to be fair, recently. Trying to think.
It's always unpleasant to think about how many drivers who should be there aren't.
You might argue Hulkenberg, but I'd say Perez is the better driver of the two. I mean, I'd quite like them as teammates again if I had a team and they were both available. I'd take Perez and Hulkenberg, absolutely. But if I had a choice between the two, I'd take Perez, and Perez brings money. So it's kind of but we'll do speculation. Maybe get together on a midweek stream at some point, Jonty, and we'll chat driver lineups if they're not all confirmed by whenever. It seems to be moving quite quickly and changes every week. But Daniel Kvyat, already touched on him, but I think really stellar drive, a guy that is probably not going to be on the grid next year if we're being honest. But solid drive. Probably quite disappointed he didn't get Ricciardo in the end. I think he said the time he spent fighting to get up into 4th place after that pit stop, it had allowed Ricciardo to get his tyres up to temperature, and that's why he couldn't quite get him. Because I think if he dispatched the other cars a little bit quicker or a little bit more quickly, he probably would have found it a little bit easier against Ricciardo, wouldn't he? So we might have seen Kvyat on the podium. I did wonder if that would be so 2020, wouldn't it? And so Red Bull. Daniel Kvyat's probably not going to be here next year. Gets a podium 3 days later. I mean, that would be so F1. But stellar drive from Kvyat, and actually, I'd say not just result, but I'd say best driver of the season so far.
Definitely, I completely agree with that, and I really enjoyed his overtake on Leclerc.
Yes.
Yeah, he just got such a run out the corner, and Leclerc almost grabbed his pants. He was like, well, where did you come from? And there was a big touch at the rear wheels. There was a hell of a lot of sparks that flew up from it. And, I had a little bit of a worry that it would be Ferrari Brazil kind of affair, but no, they both got away with it, thankfully. It was a hell of a drive. Like you say, definitely his best drive of the season.
Actually, not his... Sorry, John.
Maybe he's aware that his seat's at risk, so he's putting in a bit of extra work.
I was just going to say, sorry to interrupt you there. I was just going to say, not his only bit of contact in the race. Of course, he tagged Albon's left rear, didn't he, at one point, which was very lucky not to end in a broken front wing and a puncture. So he was proper racy today, was Kvyat. Yeah,
absolutely. It was very, very, like you say, he was lucky that there wasn't anything from that touch with Albon. But no, really, really, just solid. I think that's the best word you can use for it. He didn't make mistakes. He just got on with it. And the AlphaTauri has been getting better and better all year, it feels.
I think he kind of... Gasly retired and Kvyat just took on that role, didn't he? And was just like, well, I'll do it then. Which we could do with a bit more of, to be honest, Daniel. Would be good to see him do that a bit more, because I like Kvyat. I'm not like a fanboy or anything crazy like that, but I really like him. I think he's quicker than he's given credit for, but I think we're probably losing him at the end of the year. Quite a few drivers actually this year by the look of it, but 8/10 behind Ricciardo, so close to a podium. I think there's a picture that's been up on screen, sort of starting to come alongside as they're going across the line, so maybe a couple more laps Ricciardo won't have been able to hang on, but yeah, I think 4th place, 12 points, really good result for Kvyat. He kind of needed it. He was being battered by Gasly, wasn't he? So I think that's fair. But Charles Leclerc, 5th place. I'm going to leave this one to you a little bit, Jonty, because I don't really know what to say other than he's wringing the neck of that bloody car. I have no idea how he is 5th today and 5th in the Drivers' Championship and is doing such an incredible job in a Ferrari that is not exactly brilliant. I think it's better than perhaps we've made out. I think Seb's dragging that down a little bit because he's not scoring the points, but I'm not going to say for a second they'd suddenly be back in that fight for top 3 if Seb was scoring points. I just think the car is terrible and Leclerc's doing a cracking job. Of course, the car's better now than it was 6 races ago, let's say, or something like that, but just a mega season from Leclerc. Possibly one of the drivers of the season. I think I said last week, actually, weirdly, could actually be his best season as well in terms of how he's driving that car.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of 2020 feeling about Ferrari this year, but it's the former champions who have swapped places. You think back to 2012, it was always Massa down scrapping with the midfield and Alonso up fighting at the front. It's got that feeling this year, which is kind of odd. I don't want to get into the massive speculation thing. I can't believe they're identical and that everything is being done the same. But to be honest, why would they? Vettel's gone. Why would they bother putting any extra effort in for him? They give all of the development to Leclerc because it has been better all year, no doubt. But if they're struggling for things like that, give it all to him as well. It's the only way they're going to get any kind of result.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm like you. I don't want to get into speculation because I don't really know what to say. I think even if they had completely equal cars, even if they did have completely equal cars, I still think Leclerc would be beating Vettel this year because Ferrari, as you've kind of touched on there, are going to be more geared to Leclerc naturally, aren't they? Because Seb's leaving, so you would put all your effort into the driver that's staying because he's the one that's going to be driving next year's car. So you want his feedback on how that car's driving. You want his feedback on any updates. You're not interested in what Vettel's got to say. So I kind of, I tend to agree with you in some way there. But Seb Vettel actually probably would have had a hell of a lot better result. But for some reason, and I mean, when it's not going your way, it's not going your way, is it? But there were no errors at Leclerc's pit stop, yet we had 2 at Sebastian Vettel's pit stop, which cost him, I think it was a 13-second stop or something like that in the end, and that saw him drop right through the field because he was running 4th at one point. He was looking good for for healthy points, so possibly his best race of the year, and it was a team that cost him. So I'm not saying Ferrari deliberately cocked his pit stop up, of course I'm not, but it is just quite, like I say, when it's not going your way, it just doesn't go your way, does it?
Yeah, I mean, of course they wouldn't do that on purpose, but there was a bit of a feeling of, lads, quick, we've got 2 cars, remember? And it was very, very slapdash and very, very rushed. Yeah, it was almost as if they had forgotten he was out there because he managed to go so long on those tyres.
This vision of Ferrari pit crew being stood in the garage and then this car comes down with number 5 on and they go, number 5, is that yours? Who's got number 5? What's going on here? Oh, yeah, shit. Quick, get some tyres ready. Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying he would have been up there fighting for the podium, but he certainly would have been higher than 12th. There's no doubt about that today, but just kind of about the last few races, but certainly today sums up Ferrari's season or their driver's season. Leclerc is doing an epic job in a pretty disappointing car, and Sebastian Vettel is really struggling in that pretty terrible car, but even when he's having a decent race, something else seems to go against him. So I feel for Seb, but I think get to Racing Point or Aston Martin next year, Otmar Safnauer puts an arm around him and he can kind of settle down. There's no pressure on him there, is there? There's no politics, so maybe we'll see Seb back next year to something maybe not his best. Maybe those days have gone, we'll see, but something a little bit more relaxed and he'll get back to enjoying his racing with hopefully a car that suits him a bit better. But yeah, great from Leclerc today. Actually, I'd probably say Seb actually had a very good race. It was a team that cocked it up for him, wasn't it? So
Yeah. Yeah, well, like I say, he managed to go that long on those tyres with some actual pace as well. It's not like he was just up there because he'd gone long. He'd gone long and maintained the speed, which is why he was in with a real chance of some good points there.
Yeah.
But on to next year, and he's not going to look bad next year with his teammate, is he?
Can't believe you're saying that as Lawrence Stroll's, what was it? Lawrence Stroll's whore or something? Somebody told you probably a year ago now. The accusations that flew around for somebody else as well, that we were being paid off by the Strolls to say nice things.
Yeah,
You just said that.
That's real. I know. They actually thought that. I mean, we actually did get that. Which one was I supposed to say?
Sorry. Anyway, yeah. So I'll get the yacht out when the weather's a bit better and we're not in lockdown. McLaren, Carlos Sainz 7th, Lando Norris 8th. Kind of a little bit underwhelming, I suppose, but I think I think at least one of them pitted. Both of them pitted, didn't they? Under the second safety car, I think. So that's possibly again caught out by making that decision to pit. It says 2 stops for them, so I assume they both did, but they were kind of racy, but they were a little bit like Albon was saying earlier, got just caught in that train of cars that were a second and a half behind each other and couldn't overtake, but they were pushing hard. Sainz had a few nice little scraps as well. Was only half a second off Perez, so he was in the end. Obviously, we had a safety car, but in the end, he was only about 4 seconds off P5, so he wasn't a million miles away from a really decent result. That's the problem with the midfield this year. It can easily make you look incredible and like you've had an amazing weekend, but it can also make you look absolutely dreadful, can't it? Because there's just no time between them. It's the same in qualifying. Half a tenth can be the difference between 4th place and 9th place, so it's kind of like that in the race at the moment. But I was a little bit underwhelmed by McLaren today, but like you say, Sainz's Jedi skills is probably one of the moments of the day. Quite how he did not plough into Alex Albon, I have no idea.
Yeah, I mean, have you seen some of the still images of it? You're talking less than 10 millimeters. It's absolutely insane how close they were. But the fact he also got on the throttle again so quick after Albon was out of the way, it was purely an instinct thing. There was no actual thought involved in that at all. That was just pure race driver instincts.
Just incredible. I'm not saying anybody else would have ploughed into Albon, but you can't imagine. I mean, I reacted going, oh my God, and by the time that's all happened, the Sainz is already another 2 seconds up the road. So my reactions are obviously terrible sat at home watching. So, I mean, that's what he's paid to do, isn't it? Is to react quickly, but that's still quite impressive from him. But good points for McLaren. They're still in that fight for 3rd place. I think they're only a point off, actually. So, there's still a great scrap in there for them. But I'm trying to think. I can't really think of much else that they did today, apart from just kind of race well in that pack of cars, and unfortunately got caught out with the second pit stops and weren't able to capitalise. So I'm just trying to think. I mean, maybe Sainz will be knocking on the door of a podium if they kept him out. Maybe.
I don't know. I don't think they'd have been that close. You got the pace of the racing point and the fact that Renault called it properly.
Yeah, that's true, yeah. I don't know. Anyway, I don't know what to say about McLaren. We'll do some Q&A later. If you've got any questions, we can answer. If you've seen anything as well, when I get press releases through, I can read some of them too. But we'll get through the field. Alfa Romeo, I'd say 9th and 10th. There's an epic result for them given this season, to be honest, mate. I think they could be chuffed to bits with that. And Kimi Raikkonen getting a couple of points at his first lap in Portimao deserved a week later. So great result. And Kimi, driver of the day as well. We'll do driver of the day later too. But I think really, again, really, really good drives for both drivers on the weekend where they've both been confirmed for next year. So I know you're not thrilled by the announcement. Again, we'll get into that later. But I don't think anybody really is, truly. But apart from Kimi Raikkonen fans, obviously, and Giovinazzi fans. But 3 points, that's possibly them now pretty much securing 8th in the Constructors. Big weekend for Alfa.
Yeah. Raikkonen's been really good this weekend, and it was a surprise to see Giovinazzi get the points because they both didn't have the best of qualifyings. But again, it's a case of look at all the people that have gone out. You've got to be there to capitalise when the chances come. And Raikkonen has always been one of those people. Always.
Just Kimi, isn't he?
Yeah.
I say that to people a lot, and they're like, "Oh, what do you think of Kimi?" It's like, just Kimi, innit? What do you want me to say? He's just, yeah.
It's like, I'm good. It's honestly, I don't think they both deserve the seat for next year, because it really is time Kimi made way for someone who's trying to continue their career, and Gio hasn't really been stellar. But then you get things like Gio having solid races today, and that lap from Kimi last week. It's like, now I don't want them to go.
Yeah.
It's annoying.
I kind of feel like Alfa, I said this to you, I feel like Alfa have penned themselves in a corner a little bit, in the sense that when they confirmed Kimi, they kind of almost had to confirm Giovinazzi, because he's actually been matching him this season. I think they were level on qualifying coming into this weekend, so I don't think he's done anything epic, Giovinazzi, but I said this last week, and I don't know how, I've not really spoken to you about it much, because we haven't had a stream together for a while, but I said last week or the week before that actually Giovinazzi's done better in the Alfa than I thought he would when he first got the seat a couple of years ago. But I'd never say he's been epic, but he's been far better than I thought he would be. So maybe they're just going for continuity, get the car ready for 22, and then maybe make some changes then. But I feel like Kimi Räikkönen will race until he can't. To be honest, that's how I feel with him sometimes.
Yeah, and we only see sort of one part of Kimi.
Yeah.
You know, we talk about experienced drivers being involved in the car development, but from what we see, it's very hard to imagine that happening. You know, they're trying to develop the car for 2022, and you've got this guy saying, well, you just put the four wheels on the corner and that's it. Come on, it's a fucking car. You know what I mean? He's not really the kind of guy who would be deeply involved in the drawings and all the science.
Where's that quote from Kimi? I've got to find it, because where are we? This was it, and I recorded this for the video, and I did chuckle afterwards, because it's just so Kimi. This is a team that values hard work over words, and this fits well with my style. It's like, there you go. Yeah. That is Kimi Räikkönen. Works hard, says nothing, and that's kind of what you want as a team boss, as long as he's giving the feedback he needs to. I can imagine, though, actually, you say that, I could imagine he gets quite angry behind the scenes.
I honestly can't see that.
Really?
Yeah. I imagine his anger is, do it yourself then and walk off.
Maybe, but then you get, for what? And my steering wheel. Think, oh yeah, yeah. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I think we all love Kimi, really, don't we? It's just sometimes you're looking at drivers like Perez, who might not find himself in a seat. We've lost other drivers as well, young talent coming through. You think, maybe it is time, Kimi. But then, like you say, you see that lap, and then you see his result today, and you think, actually, no, you stay a bit longer if you want, Kimi. Nicholas Latifi, P11, equal best result for him. I might be wrong. I think he's had an 11th before. Possibly.
Yeah.
Was it Mugello or was it last year?
I think it was Mugello.
But 11th for him. But there were points on the table for Williams today, Jonty. There were points on the board, potentially, or at least on the table. George Russell looked on for them. Did a Grosjean. Binned it under the safety car. I said when I went through the order at the start, what a plonker. It's just nothing else you can say. Is that he knows it. He's taken responsibility. He's apologised. It was his mistake. His reaction was very, I think people said in chat as well, very Mika Hakkinen, 99 at Monza, sort of sat there against a fence, frustrated, angry, upset. You can understand it, because points are not easy to come by for Williams, but his mistake. And maybe, I hate saying this, like you say, because yeah, he's only in his second season, but he's still a damn sight better than I'd ever been one of them cars. But bit of a rookie error.
I mean, you can think about it in the way of, they were old, hard tyres, and then with the safety car speed, getting the temperature back in them is a nightmare. But he should have been thinking about that. He should have been thinking, I can't try and warm the tyres in exactly the same way as I normally do, because they can't do it. And look what happened. You described it the right way. The only thing you can call it is a rookie error.
He doesn't make many, does he, for a young driver, to be fair. So, mate, I think just frustration. I mean, Annette's saying there, he bottled it. And I do wonder if the pressure was there a little bit, running in the points. Should have had points in Mugello, but was kind of destroyed by, I think, a red flag kind of ruined that for him in the end, because we had the standing restart, didn't we? And that cost him that in that fight with, I think it was Seb Vettel at the time. Kind of maybe a little bit of pressure, people getting at him like, oh, well, even Kubica managed to score a point. Oh, wow, great, in Germany. And he's been beaten by his teammate in the championship, and maybe feeling that a little bit and knowing how much it would mean to Williams, especially on a weekend where he's been confirmed for next year, to get that point finally and lift that. Just get that first point, which I think can be a bit of after a while, can become a bit of a jinx. I don't know what I'm looking for. You probably know what I mean, but it's maybe just a little bit of pressure on him for that, because a couple of points for Williams today would have put them, would it be level with Haas or just behind them still? I'm going to have a double check now, but yeah.
Yeah, Haas is still on 3.
So they'd have been a point behind, wouldn't they? So there'd have been a chance for maybe in the closing races, we don't know what's happening in Turkey, of maybe ninth in the constructors. So maybe a bit of pressure, or was it just as simple as a mistake?
No, I think it's just a pure mistake. I don't think it would be pressure. Russell doesn't seem the type to crack from pressure. Certainly, some of the races that he had to do. I mean, I know it's totally different kind of pressure and nowhere near as severe, but a lot of the races that he had to deal with in GP3 and Formula 2,
Yeah,
there was some really odd races with really badly timed safety cars, and he's got the title hanging over his head, and he controlled them perfectly, and kept his cool. He doesn't seem that type. So it is just a pure mistake.
Edu says, yeah, he said he was aggressive on warm-up to keep Kimi on soft behind on restart and bottled it. Still no excuse, sadly. And Astro says, Mr. Saturday, Russell in quali, though. I mean, he's got his Saturdays down, hasn't he? How's he getting that Williams into Q2 almost every weekend? I don't know. But he's got his Saturdays down. I think he just needs that point. Get that point and people will back off and whatnot. But I think people forget he's in a Williams. It is still the worst car on the grid. It's definitely better than it was last year, but it's still the worst car on the grid. So he's not going to be scoring points every weekend. But when those opportunities crop up, like Mugello, like this weekend in Imola, he's got to take them. And yes, it's a mistake, but he'll get cut some slack now. But that's not something that's going to stand in a Mercedes in 2 years' time if he's in a Mercedes. There's no way.
No, exactly.
So.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen a lot of people saying, "Oh, everyone just goes off on one when it's Grosjean," but now that it's George, everyone's like, "Oh, it's such a shame." It's like you have to look at the form book a bit. This is the first proper silly mistake that I can think of that Russell's made. I honestly can't think of any others.
Well, yeah,
then you've got guys doing the same kind of thing in their 7th, 8th season. There's a big difference.
Well, yeah, this is it. Grosjean. Yeah, all right, fine. We memed Grosjean for the one in Baku, but Grosjean has also done things like light his car up and come back across track in Barcelona. He also had his stupid crash in Belgium back in 2012. He's done daft stuff. So I completely agree with you. That mistake under the safety car, plus everything else Grosjean had done, is why he was memed. It wasn't because of the safety car. But I must say as well, in fairness, the reason that meme was what it was because he said, I think Ericsson hit us. I don't think it was necessarily the crash under the safety car. I think it was because of the whole, it was Ericsson that hit us. And it's like, actually, no, Grosjean, you cocked up, mate. Don't go blaming other people. If Russell had said, I think Raikkonen hit us, he'd probably get the same treatment.
Yeah, there is that as well. A meme of its own making.
Yeah, basically. Did you see what Marcus Ericsson tweeted, by the way?
No, I didn't.
It's going to be very hard to really explain.
It wasn't me.
Basically, I assume it was related to that. He put a load of dots and then at F1, and he did a screenshot of a Google search of how to add location to Twitter. I don't know if it's true, but basically saying I was here, it wasn't me. Basically, so bless him. Oh, King Marcus.
He also retweeted WTF1's tweet about Russell crashing out, saying with a gif of Britney Spears saying, "Oops, I did it again."
Yeah. Poor Ericsson. And poor Russell as well. But again, it's a mistake. Hopefully some points will come this season for Williams. I do think Williams and certainly Russell deserve at least a point this year. I don't think that car and Russell's performances deserve a null point.
Yeah, they definitely do deserve it, but it's a case of whether it's going to happen. I think Bahrain 2 is going to be the big wild card. No one has a clue what's going to go on there.
What? I don't know if Stuart's listening, but if he is, I'll wind him up with this one. But you mean the oval-like layout?
Oh, don't. It's not a bloody oval.
Oval-like if you've never seen an oval before.
It's close to... I'm going to try and find a shape just to call it to annoy Stuart now.
A circle.
I know. I mean, that's going to be mad. What? 4 corners and a squiggle, and
Basically.
the rest of it is just straights. I mean, it's going to be. Wild guess, I'm going to say 84, 85% full throttle for the lap, maybe more.
I'm looking forward to it. It'll be nice to mix things up and see another layout. But
that's where Williams could well be in with a shout. Strip all of the non-existent downforce out.
Non-existent downforce.
And rely on the engine and just see if they can draft people all the way around. Just stick behind the Mercedes, saying, nope, we're staying here. One foot behind your rear wing. Please don't brake early.
Yeah, they're not stopping. Yeah, anyway, so we've done Sebastian Vettel, haven't we, really? He had that contact with Kevin Magnussen at Tosa. Stewart's had a look. No investigation necessary. When I watched it, thought first lap incident, a little bit like we saw with Perez and Verstappen last time. The incidents weren't the same, but I just mean a first lap incident, so maybe nobody to blame that. I mean, I don't think, by the way, that every single incident has to have somebody at fault. That's not what I'm saying, but I think has that happened maybe a few laps later, one of them might ended up with a penalty, a bit like the Verstappen-Perez thing. But first lap incident for you, Jonty. Obviously, it's also compromised Bottas's race, didn't it, with that front wing end plate, but not much in that, really.
No, definitely first lap incident. Probably just Vettel deciding that he wanted someone else to spin.
Yeah, see how you like it for a change. It's not fun, is it? So, yeah, but we've already talked about Seb anyway. Lance Stroll, pretty miserable day, contacting turn 1, damaged his front wing, didn't really go anywhere from there, did he, after that, down the back of the field. 13th place. Obviously, he was ill for the Nürburgring, wasn't he? So he didn't get to do that race, and I'm wondering if maybe he's not quite over that. But he's definitely dropped off a little bit in this second half of the season, which is, apart from that podium at Monza, which I think was still first half. This year is so bloody confusing. Are we first half, second half, whatever? But he seems to have dropped off a little bit after what was an impressive start to the year or season.
Yeah, absolutely. There've been a few more little niggly errors, although today there was a bit more than a niggly error with the Jackman.
Yes.
Who is all right as far as I'm aware.
He apologised, didn't he, over team radio? But if he did see it, he came in a bit hot in the pit lane and sent his, how far would you say? A good 4 or 5 foot back and bumped his head, didn't he? The front Jackman. So he's okay, which is great. But yeah, one of them days for Stroll where it just didn't really work. I mean, that first corner one, again, is that a bit of a first lap thing? Loss of downforce, cold tyres, cold brakes, little bit hot into turn 1 and bump. I don't think anybody's to blame for that either, to be honest.
Oh, no blame there at all. Just, like you say, again, another lap 1 thing.
Rogro. Oh, Rogro. Bless him. 14th place, 5-second penalty right at the end, I think, for track limits. So would have finished, where would he have finished? He would have been he'd have been 13th, I think. He was 3.7 behind Stroll, who was 7/10. No, he would have been P12, I think, just ahead of Vettel. So, I mean, he wouldn't have got points, but that 5-second penalty cost him a couple of places. Didn't actually see much of him. And chat, if you could think of anything we saw from Grosjean, or you did, Jonty, I don't know, but I don't remember seeing anything of him much, if at all, to be honest.
No, not really.
Probably for the best.
You've always got to get one in, haven't you?
Dan's doing his uni paper and punching the table now, like, shut up and leave him alone. He'll be in chat in a minute. Alex Albon, we've talked about George Russell, we've done Max Verstappen as well. K-Mag, upshifts were giving him a headache. But, I mean, he wanted to race on, didn't he? But I just wonder if the team thought, do you know what, he's got a headache. We're not probably going to score points today. let's pit him and let's box him, and then you can get a new gearbox for the next race and things like that, can't they? So, not a thrilling day for. He was running quite high at one point, wasn't he? Because he made that strategy work quite well. Went really, really long early on, so he kind of caused a bit of a traffic jam and gave us some excitement, I suppose, is what I'm going to say.
Yeah, well, that traffic jam was what worked wonders for the first Perez stop. It gave him the gap to come back out into. It was an odd issue for Magnussen, though. I do kind of feel a bit sorry for him. I mean, we all know what it's like if there's a sudden bit of acceleration after a gear change in a normal car. It can give you a bit of a jolt. Imagine that 100 times worse, 50 times a lap.
Yeah.
If the gearbox has got slightly out of sync or something, that could have been horrible.
Dan's in chat telling us off. Sorry, Dan. Get on with uni paper. Crack on. Says, no need for the Grosjean hate, lads. Yeah, sorry, Dan. We'll be nice. He's leaving soon, so we can shut up about him. No, I agree. Esteban Ocon, was it a gearbox issue? Hang on. Was it? Oh, no. Who had the cooling? Gazzy had the cooling issue, didn't he?
Clutch for Ocon, I think.
It's a clutch issue for Ocon. That triggered the virtual safety car. The minute he pulled over, I knew that was going to be a virtual safety car. I'm surprised it took the race stewards that long to work it out. To be honest, it seemed to be going on forever. I was like, well, surely, virtual safety car, you need to put marshals out on track. You're going to have to put a VSC out, and it seemed to take forever. I was like, come on.
They had to wait for Lewis to get to Sector 3, remember?
They did, yeah, they did. You don't have to deal with the comments. Do you have to do this? Yes. Anyway, so yeah, Esteban Ocon, he was doing all right, wasn't he? He's not. Have you been disappointed with Ocon this year or underwhelmed?
Can you be just whelmed? I don't know. Is that
what's that from?
Oh, that's going to drive you mad now, isn't it?
It is. Me and my partner were having this conversation last night, and we can't remember.
I'm not telling you.
You could be overwhelmed, you could be underwhelmed, but can you ever just be whelmed?
You can in Europe, is the next line, by the way. And I'm not telling you because that's going to drive you nuts. But no, he hasn't really done a great deal, has he? It's just kind of been there. He hasn't really been fighting for podiums much, or he hasn't really been so terrible. We're going, what's going on here? He's just kind of been there, slowly picking up little bits of points.
I'm sat here looking at chat, hoping they're going to bail me out, but I'm stupid, aren't I? Of course, they're not going to bail me out. They'd see me under the bus just as quickly as anybody else would. 10 things I hate about you. Yes, it was. Was it?
Yes, damn it.
Oh, thank you.
I wasn't quick enough to hide the comment.
That's a point next to Megan and David Hartong. Hartong, you all get a point now, and you're one step closer to moderator for bailing me out of that one. But yeah, I don't think he's been bad this year, Ocon. Don't get me wrong, but I expected a lot more from him, so I'm a little bit disappointed. We'll go with whelmed. Why not? Pierre Gasly, issues on the grid, bless him. Fabulous in qualifying, 4th place. What a lap, what a season, what a weekend up until that point, and he's been kind of robbed of some pretty hefty points. Again, hefty points that might have seen them, if not beat Ferrari, certainly get a hell of a lot closer to them. So a bit gutted for him, but that's the way it goes in Formula One with mechanical problems. But that is the field. So we're going to go to the driver of the day. In chat, drop a surname in. Who was your driver of the day? We'll do Q&A shortly as well. It's been a while, Jonty, but who was your driver of the day? It was Raikkonen got the official one. I'm not sure you'll agree, but maybe you will.
Honestly, for me, I'd probably have to say Kvyat. He absolutely made the most of all the chances he got and comes away with 4th. That's a hell of a good day for an AlphaTauri.
I think I'd agree with that. I think, but I'm gonna say Lewis Hamilton as well. Will be my pick, seeing as you've picked Kvyat, because I think, yes, okay, the virtual safety car came out to give them that cushion, but the laps he put in when he extended were so strong, even with Bottas's problems, and he managed to build up the gap for a pit stop and leapfrog 2 cars. So I think that was a pretty stellar performance from him once again. And there'll be people that come in the comments later going, "Oh, you don't give him driver of the day when he has an epic drive, but when he does all right because of a strategy, you give him it." It's like, yeah, but I only do it to spite you. I don't really. But no, I probably would have gone Kvyat if you'd not gone Kvyat, to be fair. But I think Hamilton is up there for me as well, and I think Perez would have been had he not had that bad strategy call because he drove well, and I think we've got to give a nod to Ricciardo too, but I'll go Hamilton, since you've gone Kvyat.
Okay.
Just sat there like, why? Let's see what they're saying in chat. Ocon says RA. Why not? I am says Kvyat. Sam says Kvyat. I think we see where this is going. John says Kvyat as well. Ahmet says Raikkonen, Kimi for Dunn. David's gone with Kvyat. Lazy Cow has gone with Lazy Cow. Oh, I'm so sorry. Lazy Low. Just thinking about myself then. Lazy Low has gone with Kvyat. Oh no. Tracy's gone with Kvyat as well. Verona's gone with Ricciardo. Ben's gone with Kvyat. Jimmy's gone with Gazman. I think maybe possibly there was driver of the weekend because of his qualifying performance yesterday. Mike's gone with Kimi. Carol has gone with Kvyat. Charles has gone with Russell. Finn says Raikkonen. Ewan says Kvyat, as does Will. Alex has gone with Kimi. Alessandro's gone with Kvyat. Russell for the F1 News squad. Spongo's gone with Ricciardo. Oh, lazy cow, I can't get out of my head now. Stop it, Sean. Focus. Rain in Sector 3 said Ricciardo. I hope there isn't rain in Sector 3. It'd be nice if there was at some point. Astro's gone with Danny Rick, obviously. Porsche's gone with Raikkonen. Kvyat's gone with Matthew. Couple more. Annette's gone gutted for Gasly. I think we know who Annette's driver of the day is. Absolutely. Mohammed's gone with Kvyat as well. And Little Chip says Perez, with Brad Williams saying Leclerc. Good shout on Leclerc. P5 again. So there you go. Yeah. And Lazy Low probably now hates me. I apologise again.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure. As Annette said, that it might be Ricciardo for her.
Yeah, I haven't seen Annette say. No, she did. She went Ricciardo or Kimi. Rolls eyes. God. Of
and
course
then said
she does.
Hulkenberg later.
Yeah, everyone says Hulkenberg. Liam's gone with Marcus Ericsson because we have to have one. I didn't see a Maldonado. To be fair, I'm sorry, Lazy Low. I apologise. I just obviously. Let's just move on. Should we just move on? Start popping your questions in chat. Ideally race related, but we'll answer a few because it's been a while since I had Jonty on as well for a few minutes. Obviously, usual bit at this point. YouTuber spiel. Spiel's a word. It is now. I'm pretty sure it is. Please do drop a like on the stream. That'd be massively appreciated. We've got 1,400 watching, 262 likes. Let's see if we can double that. That was ambitious, Sean, for a stream, but let's see if we can. Please do drop a like, and don't forget to subscribe if you're new as well. Things will be a bit busier content-wise next week, and when we build up to... Where are we next? Turkey. There will be more content, just as I said yesterday in the qualifying watch-along, being caught up with babysitting because it's half-term. Yeet, and other things as well as having a cold because I'm a massive bloody wimp, and it's as simple as that. So yes, hopefully busier next week as well. So we'll do some questions. I was going to ask you if you had a nice half term, Jonty, but I don't know why I'd ask you that. Really, have you had a nice time off school, mate?
I don't know how to answer that. It doesn't apply to me in any way.
And I think any answer you give might raise a few more questions than answers, to be fair. So probably best that we just move on from that one.
I neither have kids nor go to school. So by definition, half terms are actually less like the normal weeks.
Yeah. I mean, half terms aren't too bad now. I mean, like babysitting and stuff, that's fine. But there's going to be parents in chat that are like, oi! But like in half term, under normal circumstances, town is busier. Anywhere you go is busier. It's more miserable. At least when kids are at school, you can.
Actually, I should clarify. I do have a child, but she doesn't go to school anymore. So.
Yeah, she sat there going, oi, how dare you? Yeah, I say that. I mean, I yesterday, super quickly, when the news came out about UK Lockdown 2, although we never really came out the first one, really, did we? But anyway, Lockdown 2, I was like, oh my God, that is so frustrating. And then I realised I've not actually been out, except for once, since July. So it doesn't really bloody matter to me either way, does it? Anyway, that is so bad, Jonty. Oh, I'm like a vampire. Where would Gasly have ended up without his engine issue, says John? I think he would have been top 5, for sure. Maybe 4th, actually. If Kvyat was 4th, I'd say I'd fancy Gasly for 4th.
Oh yeah, definitely. Especially after that's one thing we didn't come up with. When we were talking about how clean the start was, I was expecting an airplane crash
Yeah.
because coming into the first corner, Gasly had an absolute flyer, and we had Gasly, Hamilton, and Verstappen 3 wide. I'm like, oh god, here we go. But it actually turned out all right. He had an amazing start. He would have been fighting for a podium.
Just quickly before I answer some more questions, had the press release through from Racing Point. So Sergio Perez said, it was clear today that a podium was in our pocket and I'm disappointed we missed out. It's easy to be critical with the benefit of hindsight, but ultimately we should have tried staying out and kept track position. However, I don't want to be critical of my team. And Otmar Saf now are pretty much saying the same. Says that with the benefit of hindsight, we shouldn't have pitted and instead tried staying out on the hard tyre. We chose to pit because we were concerned it would be difficult to switch on the hard tyres after the safety car, which sort of makes sense. Actually, we kind of touched on that, didn't we, as well? So there you go. And then, of course, the cars behind did the opposite, and that's why they ended up losing the podium. So kind of what we all expected, but if they had their time again, they would definitely do that one differently. Absolutely. Certain of that one. Omcar says, will Albon be retained considering today's performance? We've sort of talked about it already, Jonty. I think that's done now. I'd be very surprised to see him in a Red Bull next year.
Yeah, there's not a chance he's staying, sadly.
Nice lad. I think we've already said quicker than I think he's given credit for at times. There are reasons behind his struggles at Red Bull, but ultimately not great. Not great at all. Peter says, great to have Jonty back. There you go, mate.
Yeah, there's been a few people saying it is very much appreciated. I have seen them all. Don't worry, I promise.
When was the last one? Was it just for Austria when we did the preview?
Yeah, I think it will.
Jesus. I mean, to be fair, that was only about 4 months ago. It feels like 20 years ago. But yeah, wow. There you go. It won't be the last time you're on. I can promise you that. As long as you want to come on, I'm happy to have you on, mate. You know I am. So there you go. Horner already said Albon will be in a Red Bull next season. Did he?
He said that about Gasly as well.
When did he say that?
No, I've not heard that.
I'd be very surprised if that's come out following that race. I think we might be going back a little bit because the last I'd read was he's got Marco said 2 races, and then I think Horner said December to prove that he deserves that seat. So I don't think he is at all. We'll see. Maybe we're wrong. But I'd be very, very surprised if he stays. Ben Roberts says Mugello, Imola, or Monza. If you mean tracks, probably Mugello. Weirdly, I'd probably say I quite enjoyed that one. If you're talking races, I'd probably say Mugello again. I know the result in Monza was insane, but I think the race itself was better at Mugello than Imola and Monza.
Track, Monza, race, Mugello.
Go. Should Hülkenberg replace Albon at Red Bull immediately? Says Steen. I don't. I think I'm surely Albon's going to see the season out, unless, like you say, they do a deal with Renault for Alonso.
Yeah, there's no point in them putting someone else in there. It's additional cost in seat fittings, overalls, all the safety briefings, learning to use the wheel, and all the programs, and it's further details about their car going to another person who won't be there next year. And even if they had someone that could come in and bang out second every single race, it won't change the drivers or the constructors' title. So it's pointless.
Super chats, we'll do those now as well. I forgot about them. I just went on Streamlabs and spotted them. Thank you to Ruby K for your contribution. Says Sean has to say Hamilton is better than Schumacher. I just did because your super chat says it. Nice try, Ruby. Evan Master, thank you for yours. Says I have a feeling Hamilton going to retire after this season. What happens to the Merc driver lineup if I'm right? I have my suspicions on Mr. Hamilton, to be honest. I think I messaged you the other week about this, Jonty. I'm not 100% convinced he will retire, but I believe the phrase I'm using is he is at the very least considering it. But I think as long as he is, because that Mercedes is a car to beat next year again, so as long as there's a chance of going for number 8, surely he's going to go for it.
Yeah, you're right. There's that feeling. The way he's been talking, the way this year has gone, not just on track, and the fact that he already has another race team.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, it's definitely possible. It's more likely now than it has been any of the previous years we've thought that he was going at the end of the year.
I wonder if he wants a 1-year deal, you know? I wonder if that's what the stalling is on this, because he doesn't know who's going to be fastest in 2022. So signing up for 3 years when Mercedes could end up, you never know, it might not happen, but it could end up as a 5th fastest car. You don't want to be signing up long term, do you?
No, exactly. A 1-year deal would be perfect, I think.
We'll keep an eye on it. I don't think he will, but like we said, there's that lingering thought. This is the latest he's ever signed a contract, and the last time he left it as late as this was end of September 2012, and of course he signed for Mercedes. But
exactly.
we also have to remember that by the end of September 2012, we probably got about 17 races done or something stupid like that, and we were much further into a season, weren't we? Even if it was a similar number of races, it was still a long. The season started back in March, September. You know what I'm getting at, but this year's been so weird. I think he's thinking about it, maybe waiting to see what Toto does, perhaps as well, playing a part in that one.
Yeah, that could be it. Could be a thing. And also, we don't know how the relationship with Nico has gone since he left, because they were great mates. We don't know how, if they've managed to fix that or what have you, and if they're up for another a repeat of 2016 in Extreme E, because they've both got teams there. They may not be driving, but this way they can sit and throw hats at each other in the in the offices and whatnot, in the garages.
You say they might not be, they're not driving, you never know. That'd be a story, wouldn't it? Teams and drivers, head to head.
Oh, no.
That'd be epic. Driver lineup wise, for Mercedes, if that happens, I think they'll go all out for Verstappen. And I think if Red Bull haven't given him a car capable of winning the championship next year, I think he would. No, but this year, wouldn't it? So it can't be Verstappen, really, unless Mercedes buy him out of the contract. If we're talking end of 21, it'd be Verstappen.
I don't think they would.
You're not?
No. I don't think he fits well enough. He doesn't. You've got to notice that Mercedes very much have a team ideal. The whole team, everyone has the same kind of attitude and way of working, and they're all of that mindset. Red Bull is a completely different mindset, and Max fits them very much. I think that would be an issue for him.
So, do you think then Russell and Bottas?
Russell and Bottas, possibly even Russell and Perez.
Perez would be good, yeah. Oh, of course, yeah. If Hamilton would retire this year,
yeah, I'm looking at 2022.
Oh, thank you, Max, on Twitter for the DM. Lewis Hamilton has indicated he is not certain he will continue racing in Formula One next year. Let's find these quotes. I've been here a long, long time. I can definitely understand wanting to pull back a little bit and give more time to family and those things. I don't know who would replace... Oh, that's Toto Wolff, sorry. But yeah. Where's the Hamilton quote?
No, it's actually from Ben Hunt, so it's a direct quote. It says he asked Lewis about Toto's future in the team today. Never expected him to give an answer about his own future, and he says, "I don't even know if I'm going to be here next year."
Yeah, I've just found that. Yeah, I don't know. I don't even know if I'm going to be here next year. So it's a concern for me at the moment. It's not a concern for me at the moment.
Yeah, that takes the retire board up to the retire warning up to DEFCON 3. That could happen.
Hulkenberg, ironically, given that he was apparently one of their choices if Hamilton said no in 2012. German. I don't think that matters to Mercedes, but just a point.
Maybe.
Because it'll it'll come down to if he does a Rosberg and announces retirement in 3 or 4 weeks' time, for argument's sake, it'll come down to either who's available or who they could buy out of a contract. So maybe Russell, Bottas next year, and then see what the market does for 22. I mean, it will be Bottas next year because he's signed up, but I tell you what, no disrespect to Bottas at all. If Lewis Hamilton were to retire, that blows the World Championship right wide open, and Max Verstappen is right in there. He is 35 points behind Valtteri Bottas in the Drivers' Championship now in a far inferior Red Bull, and he's had a lot of bad luck this year. Just saying.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's really difficult not to say it and sound like you're being really harsh towards him, but if Lewis leaves that seat and everyone else stays where they are, and someone else comes into his seat, Bottas still isn't winning the title. You're right.
I don't want him to retire. I want him to get number 8. Because I've said it to you, Jonty. I've said it on stream before. As a Michael Schumacher fan, he is my hero. If anyone's going to beat that record, I want it properly beaten and destroyed.
Yeah,
that's what I want. So
yeah, and by the time Lewis got to 8, the race count would be up to at least 100, 108, 109.
There you go, Evan. You've got us all thinking now. Thank you for that contribution, mate. Raza also, thank you for yours. Says Vettel's end plate on Bottas' car was Ferrari's best performance result of the season.
Oh, that's good.
Take a bow. Fantastic. Feder says difference between Hamilton and Bottas. Last race, Bottas asked, let's put softs on. No, Hamilton this race, let's go long and put softs for last stint. Team okay. Fortune favours the brave. We've talked about that one. Thank you for your contribution, mate. Sujith as well. I enjoyed Ricciardo and Leclerc's moves on Magnussen. Very entertaining. Good wheel and wheel-to-wheel races. Dustin says, will Russell score a podium or points first? Probably do points in a podium in a Mercedes next year if Lewis Hamilton retires in Australia. What if... I'll tell you what. Here's a thought for you all. Brace yourself. You probably see where I'm going with this. Let's say Hamilton does retire, Russell gets in that car for next year. What if his first ever points in F1 are a win?
Oh, that'd be good.
That'd be one for the history books, wouldn't it? And Zishan, thank you for your donation as well. Says the McLaren Perez drove in 2013 was a terrible car. It wasn't a good car at all, was it? It was one of the worst ones. Certainly not a great car. Let's try and get the stream back now. I've gone and lost me chat. There we go. Take some conversations, some questions from chat, and then we'll wrap it up for today. People sort of speculating on the Hamilton thing. Thank you for your super chat, Brad, as well. Perez to Williams, Russell to Mercedes, says King in. Maybe.
Yeah.
Alexander wants to know when the article was written. It was written today, 1st of November, it said. So I haven't heard the quote. I'm just reading the quote. So we shall see on that one. I'm not convinced. It could just be posturing for a contract. Oh, I don't know if I'm going to stay. Oh, well, here's a little bit more money. Or here's another one of your World Championship winning cars that you want to keep. Bit of posturing, maybe. I don't know. But it's been a really fascinating year for the driver market. So where do you think Albon will go outside of F1, says Little Chips, ? I think if he does lose his Red Bull seat, it will be out of F1 unless they don't really back Tsunoda, and then he might get back in the AlphaTauri, but maybe Formula E for Albon. He was supposed to go there with Nissan, wasn't he? So, I mean, that's not a bad place to go. Some good racing in there, so might be what he needs. We'll see. Sorry, John, I thought you were going to say something, Jonty.
No. You just got me thinking, that's all.
I like to do that. Why not? Josh said it's from a Sun journalist. Take it with a pinch of salt. But I agree, but it was a direct quote, apparently. So, do you think Ricciardo regrets his McLaren move, says Johnny?
Absolutely not.
No. I still say that McLaren is possibly a better all-round car than the Renault. Or more consistent car than a Renault.
Yeah, definitely.
Nick DeFries to take... Oh, maybe Stoffel will get Hamilton's seat. Sorry. Yeah, right. Andrew says Nick de Vries to take Hamilton's seat. You watch my head explode if that happens.
No, de Vries isn't good enough.
Will Ricciardo in McLaren be the new Verstappen in Red Bull championship contender all the time? I don't think McLaren are close to a championship tilt, are they? Not before 22. It's great to see him up there.
Engines.
Yeah, true.
They're not with Renault anymore.
That's very true.
That's going to make a massive difference to that McLaren.
Got two here. I'm just trying to read here. Jamie says Seb did say that he picked fights he shouldn't have, and with the jab he took last week and with the updates being favoured for Leclerc's style, I think that's the issue. It could be. I just think Seb's... I don't think he's checked out, but I think he's sort of just like, oh, when is it Abu Dhabi? Let's get this out of the way for this year. And Adam says, where will the race at Turkey rank in the return of old tracks and new tracks in terms of racing? I'm very excited to see Turkey back, actually.
Yeah, Turkey's a fantastic track. Even if with the Aero it turns out that the racing's not great, I won't care because of all the onboards going around turn 8.
Yeah. That's going to be pretty special in these cars. They looked epic around Imola, didn't they? So we said at the start, didn't we? It's just been so nice to see these classic tracks returning and these fan favourites returning. Kind of gutted we didn't get Malaysia in. I think Sepang was rumoured, wasn't it? So it would have been amazing to see that back. Could you imagine we just come off what we just come off with Nürburgring and Imola and Portimao, and then we have Turkey, and then you have Malaysia followed by Bahrain and Abu Dhabi. I mean, Malaysia and Turkey, that would be an amazing back-to-back. Probably a bit of a nightmare logistically. Yeah. Certainly the COVID world, but that'd be pretty epic, wouldn't it? And then 2 in Bahrain, and then not bother with Abu Dhabi. I'd be quite happy they don't bother with that one. But
well, we can still keep hoping they get rid of that bloody place.
As long as Saudi Arabia on the calendar next year, so as long as they've got the money, mate, they'll go anywhere. They're not bothered, are they? So it's not just doesn't seem to be about the racing quite so much anymore, because I'd much rather see Nürburgring, Portimao, Turkey on the calendar next year than Russia, Abu Dhabi and Saudi Arabia, that's for sure. But hey, and not just because of where they are, but just because the tracks are going to be so... Yeah,
and then of course you've got to look at the 2022 regs. The ground effect coming in, a lot of the trimmed out aero, a hell of a lot easier to follow. Some of these tracks that have gone, that we've seen again this year or recently, how good could some of them be?
M2 podcast said Abu Dhabi track is good. It should be good. When you look at the layout, it should be. It just doesn't seem to throw up epic racing. But I do wonder actually though if we had a title decider at Abu Dhabi, if it would feel better. Because I see around 2016 was so tense. Was the last time we had one, and it kind of made the race feel better.
Yeah, it was tense, but it wasn't a good race because the guy at the front was going like 10 seconds a lap slower than he should have to try and force people behind to overtake. So whilst it was tense, it certainly wasn't exciting.
I mean, we've had okay races at Abu Dhabi. I actually think possibly not last year, year before. Or was it last year when we had that little tiny sprinkling of rain that got everyone excited? And that was an okay race, but I don't sit down and go, woohoo, Abu Dhabi this weekend. I don't for Sochi either. And I'm sure there'll be plenty of examples of, well, I thought this race was really good, but when it comes to Abu Dhabi and Russia, it's very much like 1 or 2. But
it's amusing that Abu Dhabi 2012 was exactly the same as 2016, only by accident.
Yeah. Very true. But I suppose... before we wrap things up, Jonty, we've said we're really pleased to see Imola back for the nostalgic point of view. Is that the last time, unless we have another crazy year like we have this year, that we're going to see that on the calendar? Do you think it's probably the least likely of all the ones that have returned to come back?
Oh, yeah, it's definitely the least likely. I'd say of the returning or new tracks we've had, I'm worried that Mugello will get the nod over the others when Portimao is quite clearly a much better track. And again, you think about the change that will come for 2022. God, Portimao being absolutely incredible. And with a proper calendar, we'd probably also get F3 and F2 there as well.
next year we were never going to see Portimao in that anyway, were we? Because already contracts are in place. It was more for 22, but I would take Portimao over Barcelona, for example, any day of the week. Test in Barcelona. I've always said that. Test at Barcelona, just don't race there, or race there and don't test there, but don't do both. So I'd like Portimao and Nürburgring. Even if Nürburgring wants to share alternate years with Hockenheim, they're the two that I'd like to see back. So I don't think we'll see Imola, and I don't think we should, to be honest. I don't think the racing was good enough for this crop of cars to be back at Imola anytime soon. So maybe 23, 24, if we do get cars following more closely and we get the epic racing, maybe they'll think about it. But as long as Monza's on the calendar, I don't see two races in Italy again either.
No, I mean, we can't come back to Imola unless the cars narrow by at least 300 millimeters.
Yeah.
And maybe shorten by at least 500 millimeters as well. Because that's been the main problem. On top of the aero. On top of the aero, the other big issue that many tracks have had with these cars is the sheer size. That's why Monaco's so bad. The aero is never going to make that much difference around Monaco when you've got a scrap going on because no one's at full tilt. It's all blocking and moving and trying to find a gap, but they can't because the car's too big. So that's the other thing that needs to happen.
Suji, thank you for another super chat, mate. It says McLaren Mercedes next year, Ricciardo is going to have the best season of his career. And just super quickly, Astro just questioning about COVID's impact next year. I think, first of all, F1, Liberty Media need a hell of a lot of praise for getting this season up and running. And actually, yeah, we had everything at Racing Point, people testing positive, but actually, generally speaking, on the whole, they've done a fantastic job at keeping Formula One going whilst so many other things in the world have shut down or are shutting down again. In the UK, elite sport's okay to continue, so teams can come back to the UK and then fly off to other races as well, so the season isn't going to end. But in terms of next year, the fact Formula One haven't listed backup tracks says to me that they are very confident they could just carry on as they are into next year, and hopefully, fingers crossed, by the middle of next year it'll all be sorted anyway. I'm not convinced. Well, let's not get into that, that's too political, but I think given what they've done since July in getting people tested and keeping everyone in bubbles, they'll just carry that on into next year. And I mean, Australia have already said, haven't they, Jonty, that they are hosting the opening race in March. That's it.
Yeah. And you're right, there's been a hell of a lot of positivity in how they've done things. A lot of it could have been better. They certainly didn't start off very well, with literally everyone who watches F1 looking at the situation in Australia this year going, why are there people turning up? Why haven't you told them to stay at home when you know it's going to get cancelled? Yeah, it was very irresponsible. They did turn around pretty well. Hopefully it's all done and dusted next year, but like you say, unlikely, and a different conversation entirely.
Yeah, there'll be some sort of impact on the opening races, won't there? Certainly through the spring. But yeah, we'll see. We'll wrap it up there, though, Jonty. Thank you so much, mate, for popping back on. It's been absolutely lovely to talk to you. It really has. And we must not leave it quite so long next time. It's a disgrace.
Yeah, I mean, there were reasons for it.
Yeah, of course.
Thanks to you and everyone who's welcomed me back. It's been great to be back. And I look forward to the next one. And obviously, thanks to everyone who sent messages and what have you of support. It's been great. Absolutely.
We'll get together again soon on a stream. Maybe after Turkey. Because I'm really looking forward to that one. But you got any quick predictions for Turkey, Jonty? We've got no reference really at all, but just before you go.
Not really, because we're having beef for Christmas dinner.
There you go. You don't stuff your beef. Well, let's move on quickly from that one. Anyway, thank you, Jonty, for popping on, mate, and I'm sure I'll talk to you shortly. Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Thank you to Jonty. Thank you to you guys for. It's all about cows today, isn't it? Absolutely terrible. I'm going to wrap it up there, though. Thank you for popping along for the stream. Please do drop a like before you disappear. That'd be massively appreciated. And do subscribe if you're new as well. I will be back later in the week, probably Tuesday, Wednesday time, with another video, of course. Looking at doing some more live streaming in the future as well. Just leave it with me, sorting some stuff out. I think half term's over next week. It wants to be. It better be. So yeah, hopefully Tuesday or Wednesday next week, I'll be back with another video, and then we'll be gearing up to a proper race weekend for Turkey. Hopefully no interruptions this time with preview and all of that business as well. 4 races to go this season. 4 races to go. Crazy how quickly it's gone when you consider this year feels like it's been about 3 years. But yes, don't forget, you can, of course, follow me over on social media, and all of the links you need for that are in the description down below. But as ever, thank you for watching. I've been Sean. This has been the F1 Word, and until next time, goodbye.